What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a three-way comparison of the Toyworld B, MP-21 Bumblebee, and the MP-45 Bumblebee 2.0. So these figures came out pretty many different years apart. Toyworld B was the first. I kind of have them in order here. And then several years later, the MP-21, and then finally, most recently, we have the MP-45. So different iterations, different years, different levels of technology. So I thought it'd be cool to look at these. I've been wanting to do this comparison for a while, but I had a hard time getting a hold of this guy. Speaking of which, Tony Jr. from, you may know him from Facebook groups out there, he was able to provide these two for me. So thank you, Tony Jr. I appreciate you sending these my way for review. But now that we have them, let's take a comparison of these three guys. As I always mention these, this is my opinion. I try to be objective as possible in these categories, but of course there's subjectivity involved. So if you prefer a different figure than the one that I recommend, then you win. You can get that figure. With that being said, let's get started. We'll start off with accessories. Here are the included accessories. By the way, they all come with instruction manual and a collector's card. So they all come with a blaster, although I would argue the Toyworld style is very different. But there you go. They all come with that. These two both come on alternate faces. And it's kind of like a straight face versus the smiling face that he has on him. So we'll put the two straight faces away. And then, again, the official Takara Tomy versions, this one comes with Exosuit Daniel, whereas the MP-45 comes with a Spike. So a little bit different there. I really do like this. One of the reasons I really like this accessory a lot is because it transforms, which is, you know, you can't say that much for most accessories included unless you get a Target Master. But with this and maybe, you know, one other accessory, we can probably call these even, although I'd argue I like this a lot better. And so you're left with more accessories for the MP-45. He's got the blast effect for his gun, and then he's got a license plate here. I love New York license plate. So we're going to give accessories to the MP-45. That being said, I do prefer having this exosuit Spike in my collection. Right, next we'll talk about the cartoon accuracy. So in order to do that, we'll put the G1 image over here. And for me personally, it's not really even a contest. The MP-45 comes the closest to the cartoon. But there's something to be said. So Bobby reviewed this figure, and one thing that he said was sometimes it just goes too far. And this is a case where maybe they have gone too far with the toon accuracy at the sacrifice of a few other things. We're going to get to the other features and other categories here, but as far as toon accuracy, there's no doubt in my mind MP-45 nailed the cartoon accuracy. A close second would be the MP-21 Bumblebee, although his proportions are a little off. And then the B, this B actually looks more like the Dreamwave Bumblebee. Maybe I can find an image of that and put that there. I believe they were going for a B, but maybe not necessarily a super toon accurate B. But there you go. All right, next we'll talk about the Sculpt. Again, it's a very subjective category, but we're going to take a look at each one of these. So here's the Toyworld B. You do have, I don't know, the face sculpt is a little bit different, a little bit odd. He looks more like, you know, like a comic bee than anything else. Here, the feet, really nicely done. You've got the classic front of the car feet with the lights, translucent blue, and then you got the bumper there. Here's the side, you got the wheels on the bottom, the turn signals, and then on the back the doors. Pretty clean feet overall. Here's the back. The back is clean looking, although it doesn't really peg in very securely. It does look clean. Face sculpt is okay, not too bad. Like I said, he does have that little goatee going on, which is more like Dreamwave or comic version of B. And he falls back. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Got to angle his feet. Here's the MP-21 Bumblebee. Pretty clean, pretty much all the way around. You don't really have any kibble anywhere. There are the feet. Nice clean feet. He does have the translucent headlights there with the chrome. Got the bumper there. Pretty clean. The only thing I would say about the Sculpt here is the legs are a little bit skinny. Looks a little emaciated. And then he also does have a little gap here in the arms. That's somewhat unsightly, especially for a masterpiece figure. Although price-wise, it was pretty good price for this. Compared to the MP-45, it was a good price. So pretty clean all the way around. I like the overall cleanliness except for the arms. And then here's the MP-45, and great straight on, although you can start to see what's going on back here. As soon as you look, then boom, you get all this stuff. You've got the feet just look like squashed up, I don't know, car sandwich. And here's the backpack. It's just got so much going on. Even in the center here of the body, there's a lot of stuff in there. Straight on though, he looks really good. He's got a nice sculpt overall in terms of the cartoon. He looks a lot like the cartoon. I personally don't really like the look of that cartoon image. I think it just looks odd. So I'm going to give MP-21 the sculpt here. I think it's the cleanest looking and just the most consistent overall. This just looks a little weird to me. All right, next we'll talk about the paint on these guys. So the Toyworld B has the painted blue glass all the way around. So on the rear, on the front, you do have the silver outline with the windshield wipers on there. The face is painted silver. The eyes are not painted. Those are just translucent blue with light piping like they used to do back in the day. There are some little accents. There's little silver accents here and there. And then you have the translucent blue lights with the silver around it, and then a turn signal here. And you have door handles on the back here. For the wheels, you do have paint on the hubcaps. So you do have a little bit of paint on that guy. Continuing to the MP-21, you have pretty much everything that you see that is yellow is painted yellow. The face is painted white with painted blue eyes. The wheels are painted with a silver hubcap on all four wheels. The Autobot logo is painted here. The back is fully painted. So everything except for the black parts are painted on MP-21. MP-45 is pretty much fully painted. So everything yellow is painted. All of the silver gray is painted except for... Is that painted too? That might even be painted as well. So pretty much 100% covered in paint. It's pretty well done. Overall, there are some paint flecks here and there, but overall, pretty nicely painted figure. Takara has been doing a good job at fully painting their figures. Now, the quality of the paint is another question, and we'll talk about that when we get to build. But overall, MP-45 has the most paint, so we're going to give paint to MP-45. Next, we're going to talk about the build quality. And the Toyworld figure is somewhat old, so back in the day when we were getting these third-party figures, they were made to be, somewhat cheaper. They were more chug style, and so the plastic feels a little bit lighter and thinner and cheaper. It looks fine, it looks good, but when you're feeling it, when you're transforming it, just doesn't feel all that solid. And for example, the tolerances are just not, all that good. It does tend to sort of come loose as you're doing stuff. And then you've got, some issues like this, and we'll talk a little bit more when we get to articulation, but it's got some really loose joints in the feet, and I pretty much wasn't touching it before, but he tends to fall back on those joints. So I have to do this to make sure he doesn't fall. MP-21, pretty solid all around. I haven't had any issues. I've transformed this dozens and dozens of times. No real issues with the paint, no real issues with the transformation or the joints. Everything is still tight years after getting this figure and using it for many, many videos. So pretty solid. MP-45, I've got a lot of build issues, so loose joints on the legs. These are all pin joints, and unfortunately there's no way to tighten them. You could try to get some floor polish in there. This isn't my figure, so I'm not going to try to attempt to fix it, but a lot of loose joints going on, which makes for kind of a not pleasant experience when you're trying to pose it. There's also paint flecks as I'm transforming and manipulating. I will see yellow paint flecks here, and again, not my figure, so I do want to be careful with it, but That tells me that this is not going to be there for the long haul. You're going to have paint issues, and you're going to have quality issues with these pin joints. So we're going to give MP-21 for build. All right, next we'll talk about the articulation. So in order to do that, we have to go through each figure here. So we'll start off with Toyworld Bumblebee, and the head is on a ball joint. It goes up to there, down to there, and rotates around. Not much side to side. Shoulder goes up to there, rotates all the way around. There is a bicep swivel here. The elbow is on a soft ratchet that gets 90 degrees. You have a rotation at the wrist. A rotation at the waist, goes all the way around. The legs go up to there, back to there, and out to the side all the way. Rotation at the thigh, and also a rotation at the knee. So you get the little bit of rotation here and even more over there. You have a single jointed knee, gets you 90 degrees on a soft ratchet. You have ankle tilt out to there and ankle pivot all the way back and forth, although I did show you earlier that that joint is somewhat loose. I don't know if it's this copy or this figure in general. MP-21, head is on a ball joint, gets you up to there, down to there, rotates all the way around. Important for a small character to be able to look up like that. The shoulder goes up to here. You do have a little bit of movement here as well as on this joint. Rotation all the way around. Rotation at the bicep. Single jointed elbow gets you a little bit past 90 degrees. No wrist swivel or hand movement there. Rotation at the waist all the way around. You get legs kick up to there, all the way back to there, out to there. Rotation at the thigh all the way around. A double jointed knee gets you back to there, although a little bit awkward. You get ankle tilt and ankle pivot. If you open up this panel, you can get a little bit more, although I'd argue that's cheating, so we won't count that. But you do get both ankle tilt and ankle pivot pretty far. So moving on to MP-45, you do have the head on a pretty odd joint. I haven't seen this before, but it does give you quite a bit of up and down. It does look a little bit weird depending on the position you have it in, but you get a lot of movement out of the head. The shoulders rotate up to there. Again, the sculpt gets kind of destroyed there, but you do get the rotation. Rotates all the way around. You have a rotation at the bicep. Single jointed elbow, but it gets you well past 90 degrees. You do have a rotation at the wrist, and you have the hand fingers on a single pin that open up. You are supposed to have a waist rotation, but for whatever reason they built it hindered, so it doesn't rotate. It's like they thought about putting it in and then they changed their mind. I don't know. Same for the thigh rotation. It's hindered for whatever reason by something. Something's blocking it, and I don't want to break it. It looks like maybe the internals here. Yeah, it's this piece right here that's blocking it. I think if you were to rotate it, you'd probably scratch this gray paint. Again, not my figure, so I don't want to force it. So really almost no articulation on that thigh and the waist. You do get a nice double jointed knee, gets all the way up to there. You do get ankle tilt all the way up to there and ankle pivot this way, back and forth. So because of the issues and limitations with MP-45, although I think they were going for better articulation, they missed the mark. So I'm going to give articulation to MP-21. Next, I'll talk about the engineering. So they all take different takes on the transformation. And I do really like the cleanliness of MP-21. You know, you've got the least amount of kibble and things like that. But one of the things it doesn't do, and we'll see this when we get to the vehicle mode, is it doesn't have the chibi vehicle mode. It's got the regular Bumblebee or the regular Volkswagen Beetle. Whereas this Bumblebee was able to pull off the taller size robot mode with the chibi style vehicle mode. So that's a pretty interesting engineering, technique. I think that's pretty cool that they're able to do that. There are some sacrifices made to make that happen, like this and this. But in terms of the amount of engineering and the amount of parts, that's also why this guy is probably more expensive. He's just got the most engineering built in to make that happen. The Toyworld Bee is probably the simplest in terms of engineering. It's just got the least the least amount of parts and the least complexity in terms of how it transforms. So I'm going to give the engineering to MP-45. But when it comes to transformation, this is an absolute nightmare. I hate transforming MP-45. There's so many little flipping panels and very scary thin joints, tiny little plastic joints and pieces that feel like they're going to break. And, that kind of speaks to the build quality, which was an issue as well. But the transformation is absolutely not fun at all. And I don't think they were going for fun. I think they were going for accurate modes in both modes. Probably the most enjoyable and the easiest and the most fun is going to be MP-21. I just find this transformation so easy. This is the one that I flip back and forth all the time on my shelf when I change up Cliff Jumper and him. Toyworld B is not too bad either, although there are some clearance issues as you're trying to get him into the right position. There are some things that are just hard to clear, like this backpack. Sometimes when you're trying to get it manipulated, it does hinder, but this is also fairly easy. But I'm going to give transformation to MP-21. I think it's just the most enjoyable, the most fun, the most rewarding out of the three. Here we have them all in their vehicle modes, all slightly different takes on Bumblebee, and here they are kind of on the side. We'll bring in MP-10 here. And so with MP-10, the MP-45 probably goes a lot better than MP-44. The MP-21 looks pretty good, and then the Toyworld B actually fits in pretty nicely with the MP-45 vehicle. These are a little bit smaller, but there you go for comparison. In terms of the actual vehicle, so the Toyworld B has the windshield wipers here. It's got the light detail, the bumper, the little turn signals there. On the rear, it's got the translucent red for the lights. It's got a license plate that says B, and then it's got that rear bumper, and then the painted wheels. All in all, pretty cool. It's kind of a mix of that realistic vehicle look plus the little chibi style. The MP-21 has really went for just that very vehicle accurate, right? Trying to go down to the T on the Volkswagen Beetle. And this is it. They've nailed it. It's got all that detail. It's got the lights. It's got the little chrome piece. It's got the turn signal. It's got the Volkswagen sign right there. It's got the door handles. It's even got the wheel, which wasn't in the show. It's got the rear tail lights. It's got the bumper. I really like the look of this in terms of the vehicle mode. And then you have the MP-45. Kind of a nightmare, honestly, to get it here. Transforming this guy is not fun. I mentioned that during transformation scoring. And I still can't really get it quite right. I'm not going to bother with it too much because not my figure and it feels like it's going to break. I just don't want to push it. It obviously looks the most like the cartoon. So if you're the kind of person that likes the cartoon look, this is the one for you. It tends to not roll very well because all these panels don't line up quite right, and so it tends to drag on the ground a little bit. But definitely the most accurate in terms of the show. But in terms of the vehicle mode, I think the Toyworld B actually makes the best sacrifices or the best compromise in terms of getting that realistic vehicle, but also having that chibi, short version of Bumblebee that looks more like the cartoon. So kind of in a weird twist. I'm going to give the vehicle mode to Toyworld. I just think they pulled off the best compromised look here without sacrificing things like, being able to roll or having a bunch of panels everywhere or making it a nightmare to transform. The last factor here is the cost. Now I'm going to go off of American retail prices, so don't give me the Amazon or whatever other price you're going to quote me. So for American retail, the Toyworld B was originally $70 at retail. The MP-21 was $80 at retail, and the MP-45 comes in at a whopping $120 retail. So very clearly, the Toyworld B is going to take the cost. Final thoughts on these guys. So you can see the score there. But of course, it really depends what you're looking for, right? It's really, what do you want for your collection? If you want that cartoon accuracy no matter what, and that you're willing to sacrifice everything for just cartoon accuracy, MP-45 definitely is for you. It's by far the most cartoon accurate in both modes. It really, has a lot of engineering to get it to do that. But there's so much sacrifice. For me personally, in my collection, I was sticking with MP-21. After doing this comparison, I am still sticking with MP-21. I think it's perfect for me personally and my preferences. But as always, your toy, you choose the one that you like. Hope you enjoyed this comparison. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.